warm welcome to all of you, and the emphasis would be on warm. I'm so glad that it's warm and sunny, that we can deliver this kind of weather to you. As the regent, I like to take credit for the weather. So I'm Barbara Lucas, the 21st Regent of the Mount Vernon Ladies Association, and it is, as usual, wonderful, wonderful to be here tonight with all of you. It's my personal favorite event, and it's always a highlight for Mount Vernon and our partners, Washington College and the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History. And so we're here not only to proclaim the winner of this prestigious award, the 2016 George Washington Award, but we're also celebrating the enduring value of the written word, which is something that George Washington appreciated profoundly. Our tradition for this event is to make the all-important announcement of the winner here during the first portion of the evening. And we'll do that in just a few minutes after we introduce all seven, yes, of this year's finalists, many more than usual, a bumper crop this year. And as usual, we will be helped by the students from Washington College who will display the covers of each of these extraordinary books. Breaking with tradition, however, I am thrilled to announce that we have a very special guest participating in the program this evening. In 1994, Louis Lehrman and Richard Gilder co-founded the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History. They remain the visionary co-chairman of that institute to this day. Tonight, we are very honored to have Louis Lehrman with us. In addition to a long and distinguished career in business and on Wall Street, Lou Lehrman has written and lectured widely in American history and economics. As an advocate, author, benefactor, collector, and scholar of American history, it can be said that our nation's heritage has no greater friend than this talented and committed patriot. To set the stage for the introduction of our finalists, please welcome with me Lou Lehrman.
Thank you, Mr. So thank you, Madam Regent, President Vibrant, Professor Basker, Mr. Goodhart, distinguished friends of Mount Vernon. We have gathered annually to bestow a unique prize upon that author who has written the outstanding book on the era of General Washington. I have been asked by colleagues, why do we do this? Why this prize? Why do we work so hard here to commemorate this one American founder? Is it sufficient to say that he was the first great general of victorious American armies? That the general surely was the father of our common country? That he was the intrepid first president of the American Republic? If these be sufficient, why then do we meet here at the ancestral hearth, high above the Potomac, not in the memorial city across the water, which bears his name? When we do contemplate this question, we sense that all the mighty public triumphs of the general are insufficient by which to remember the great man. Rather, it is for us here at this farm, upon this sacred soil, to commemorate the character virtues of our soldier farmer. Now, well do I remember, boy though I was, when the storied name of Washington first creased my memory. From a child's book, I still recall reading of his daring feats at the farm. Thus it is meet, it is fitting, that we gather here at his farm, the citadel which preoccupied our extraordinary Cincinnatus from Virginia every day of his life. At war and at peace, from his letters, we know that Mount Vernon was the fertile creation of one of the ablest, richest, and grandest of the Virginia farmers and planters of his day. No one who visits this domain can mistake the authentic character of a master of the agronomic arts. To do here what he did bespeaks not his martial virtues, but instead his timeless domestic virtues of industry, deep study, and meticulous attention to the details of farm management. To know that he loved parties, horses, and horse racing, capacious and gentle homes, that he cherished his afternoon tea, that he loved to dance, that at home here he was a generous host to a vast throng of visitors. To know all these things is to know the General Washington of flesh and blood. Thence not only to respect him, but to embrace his cultivated, manly sensibility. And all of this about us, the vast landscape, the domestic treasures, the architecture, all wrought by the hand of a visionary, has been entrusted as if by Providence to the care and custody of the ladies of Mount Vernon. To the Regent, Mrs. Lucas, and the Vice-Regents, as if by the hand of Providence given to them in their care permanently, and with what peerless results they have attended to their legacy. Mount Vernon is surely one of the most perfect of our national patrimonies. We at the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History are deeply gratified. Indeed, we are honored to be given the privilege to work with you who have assembled here tonight to join with the ladies of Mount Vernon and Washington College in order to celebrate the genius of the general, first as he was among the founders. We salute General Washington. Above all, with this annual gathering here, we hope to hand down through the ages his memory in yet another way, in the form of an intellectual, even a bookish distinction which the general himself would applaud. We call this memorial to the great man the Washington Prize. We give this prize tonight to a distinguished Washington laureate, all the procedures and ceremonies leading to which having been faithfully carried out in the spirit of the builder of Mount Vernon. Congratulations to the Regent, to the Washington Prize jury, to the trustees, and to the prize-winning Washington laureate. It is an honor to be among you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So now, okay.
Beautiful. Get this right. Well, we were all privileged to hear those remarks. They were inspiring, beautiful, just as I would have expected. To introduce this year's finalists, I am joined by the Honorable Sheila Bair, President of Washington College, Dr. James Basker, I guess it will be apparent who's who, President of the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History, Sylvia Isaac, Associate Principal of the School Without Walls High School in Washington, D.C., Dr. Doug Bradburn, the founding director of the Fred W. Smith National Library for the Study of George Washington, Dr. Philip Levy, Professor of History at the University of South Florida, Ann Horner, Vice Co-Chair of the Board of Washington College, and Kurt Vibrandt, the President and CEO of Mount Vernon. So, Madam President, would you like to begin? Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Sheila Bair, President of Washington College, and I want you to know it's a real pleasure to be here on this beautiful evening, especially after the harrowing trip I just had on the Beltway. So I am very happy to be here, and I'm very glad I didn't delay things. This is the home of our college's founding patron and namesake, and it's such a pleasure to join our partners, Mount Vernon and the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History, in honoring the finalists for the 2016 George Washington Prize and announcing the winner. The superb work of these gifted historians enlarges our knowledge of the past, enlightens our understanding of the present, and clarifies our vision as we look toward the future. The first of the 7 finalists is Mary Sarah Bilder's Madison's Hand, Revising the Constitutional Convention, published by Harvard University Press. Mary Sarah Bilder's singularly important book details James Madison's ongoing revisions of the manuscript of his famous Notes of Debates in the Federal Convention of 1787, published in 1840, 4 years after his death. It's well known that Madison was personally and deeply engaged in the debates, and as Dr. Bilder's work shows, accurately recording his and other delegates' comments would have been virtually impossible. Any responsible note-taker would have gone back to make corrections where necessary. What historians, lawyers, and jurists have generally accepted as reliable rendering of the debates is in fact the product of persistent modification over nearly half a century, changes that inevitably reflect political and personal concerns that arose long after the Constitution was ratified. The Washington Prize jury claimed that there was no more bracing, important, and challenging work submitted this year. That is, challenging wisdom about the terms on which our very nation was founded. The seriousness of that challenge and its significance for all of us and readers of history make Madison's Hand a truly exceptional book. Congratulations to Sarah Gilder. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Basker, and I am president of the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History. And as Lou Lehrman indicated, we are enormously proud to be partners with Mount Vernon and Washington College in sponsoring this prize. This is the second of the 7 finalists. The book is Kathleen Duval's Independence Lost: Lives on the Edge of the American Revolution, published by Random House. At the end of 1779, the Continental Congress sent a delegation to General George Washington's headquarters in Morristown to confer with him over a Spanish request for military assistance in seizing Florida from the British in exchange for a desperately needed $5 million loan from Madrid. Washington dismissed the, what he called, highly imprudent plan, asking instead that the Spanish send military relief to his army in Charleston. Nothing came of that request either. But the incident showed how the American struggle for independence unfolded against a larger contest of empires that had begun in 1754 and would not truly end until 1815, a contest conducted with portentous outcomes on the shores of the Gulf of Mexico, from East Florida to Louisiana. Kathleen Duval's gripping Independence Lost tells the story of those Gulf Coast conflicts. Described by the jury as a tour de force of historical scholarship and reclamation, it is a book that is accessible to general readers who, upon completing it, will view and understand 18th century America as never before.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here this evening. And I'd like to also thank you for having one of our social studies teachers here, Carlton Ackerman, from the School Without Walls. So thank you. I am going to tell you about Flora Fraser and her book, The Washingtons, George and Martha, Joined by Friendship, Crowned by Love. While many historians have published accounts of General Washington's relationships with the variety of his contemporaries, no one has thoroughly examined the incredibly strong bond between George and Martha. Lady Washington burned her husband's letters to protect their privacy after his death, and the sparse remaining records have discouraged historians and biographers from attempting a full-length treatment of this important subject. We owe Flora Fraser a debt of gratitude for tackling the topic, as she diligently rounds out the more familiar facts with new details and thoughtful analysis. Fraser's Martha and George were devoted to each other and steadfast in their loyalty. They worked side by side throughout their life, well-matched yokemates with tremendous perseverance. Given the dearth of primary sources on Martha, the author does a particularly fine job in examining her important role. And from that, we get a fuller, more rounded sense of George. The Washingtons is a valuable contribution to our understanding of George and Martha Washington and their era, and ought to prove of lasting importance for a long time to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Doug Bradburn, the director of the Washington Library. I'm delighted to speak tonight about Robert Middlecoff's book. Robert Middlecoff is... There we go. Oh, that's great. There he is. Robert Middlecoff is one of the great historians of our age. With several highly regarded books to his name, his new book, Washington's Revolution, adds to his stellar record. In this brilliant study of Washington's military life, Middlecoff describes a twofold revolution. Just as the fight for independence brought upon a political transformation, so Washington himself experienced a personal revolution, beginning as a provincial colonial who became a patriot, and then turning into a broad-minded thinker who perceived the infant republic in a national and even continental terms. In 1775, Middlecoff writes, Washington did not, quote, fully sense the possibilities or the range of political liberty. But that would change dramatically. First, Washington developed an unwavering commitment to civilian supremacy in the American Republic over the military, his first great gift to us today. Second, Washington was a man of vision who saw before anyone else that the United States could become a great nation, not simply a collection of small republics. To his contemporaries, Washington came to embody the nation itself, just as he would to later generations. Congratulations to Robert Middlecoff.
Good evening. I'm Philip Levy. I'm a professor of history at the University of South Florida, and for the past 6 months, it's been my enormous honor and privilege to be a research fellow at the Fred W. Smith National Library for the Study of George Washington. It's also an enormous pleasure and honor to be able to introduce Jane Pulaski's book, Revolutions Without Borders, The Call to Liberty in the Atlantic World, published by Yale University Press. The American Revolution touched off the age of democratic revolution that resounded through the Atlantic world most powerfully in France. But now, thanks to Janet Pulaski's Revolution Without Borders, it becomes clear that the circulation and impact of revolutionary ideas, and with them, the aspiration, as Thomas Paine once wrote, to make the world over again, was far more rapid, expansive, and inspiring than anyone has quite understood before. This book is an astonishingly wide-ranging and original reinterpretation of the birth of the modern political world. Janet Pulaski wants her readers to perceive the late 18th century Atlantic as a place without national borders, a place where, paradoxically, political upheavals that led to the creation of new nation-states arose from movements of peoples and ideas that respected no national limitations. Revolution Without Borders is essential to an understanding of the sometimes utopian revolutionary world of the late 18th century. Pulaski has written a startling, path-breaking intellectual history of the political revolutions of that era, a book for general readers and scholars alike. Congratulations.
Good evening. My name is Ann Horner. I'm on the board at Washington College, the only college which George Washington gave his name to. So it's a very proud moment to be here. I would like to present to you this evening David Preston's book, Braddock's Defeat, The Battle of the Monongahela, and the Road to the Revolution. In the summer of 1755, early in the French and Indian War, 2,100 British troops under General Braddock set out from Virginia into the Ohio Valley hoping to eliminate the French military presence. A surprise encounter at the Monongahela River led to a furious engagement and an astonishing turnabout. George Washington, serving as a senior aide, had anticipated the perils of fighting Indians in a heavily forested wilderness, but to no avail. In the ensuing melee, Washington helped prevent a complete rout and gained his first taste of glory, while the British suffered staggering casualties, including the slain General Braddock, compared to less than 50 dead or wounded for the French and the Indians. Historians regard the battle, known as Braddock's defeat, as one of the greatest disasters to befall the British military in the entire 18th century. David Preston's Braddock's defeat is the most detailed and authoritative study of the battle yet written. For readers interested in the life and career of George Washington, this book offers a meticulous reconstruction of everything, written with a profound appreciation of broader cultural, social, and political issues and implications. Congratulations to David on a fantastic book.
My name is Kurt Vibrantz. I'm the president of George Washington Mount Vernon. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to introduce John Sedgwick as the author of War of Two, Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr, and The Duel That Stunned the Nation, which was published by Berkeley Press. Timing is frequently everything for an author, and these days no star shines brighter in the founder's firmament than Alexander Hamilton's. He may have been a difficult, self-centered, even imperious man to his contemporaries, but thanks to admiring historians, helped along by a hip Broadway show, readers and audiences now marvel at his rags to riches story, his intellectual brilliance, his neo-mercantilist economic theories, and his imputed abolitionist beliefs. Against this backdrop, there are no big surprises in John Sedgwick's War of Two. Aaron Burr is definitely the bad guy, yet in some ways the book cuts across the grain of Hamilton's chic. As Hamilton grows more heroic in today's world, Burr's reputation, never especially glorious and finally villainous, continues to languish. But as Sedgwick describes him in the autumn of his life, Burr seems more foolhardy and brazen than evil. Burr died alone, in poverty, and was buried near his father in Princeton, New Jersey. Sedgwick tells the entire tale brilliantly, with uncommon astuteness, as well as with a literary flair. So congratulations, John.
What a year it's been for literature of the founding era. We have never had an array of books like this before, all of them extraordinary. So Lou, would you come over and join me here? And Sheila, you would come over too. And I think we're at that moment of moments. We used to say, and the envelope, please, but there is no envelope. But I can tell you that I'm happy to say that the winner is Flora Fraser. For the Washingtons, George and Martha, joined by friendship, crowned by love. Flora, please step forward. You will have the pleasure, by the way, I'm sure Flora will make some remarks, but you will have the pleasure of hearing remarks from Flora later during the dinner hour. Congratulations. Thank you so much, Madam Regent. The mic is yours if you'd like to say something.
I would just say that I am so very grateful for this quite extraordinary honour, and I shall treasure this medal. I'm not sure I've ever won a medal, certainly not for sports. So to win a medal for the written word is of quite extraordinary importance, and I thank you, Madam Regent, I thank you, Madam President, I thank you, Lou, and all the jurors I can't think of a more beautiful setting in which to receive such a very great honour. Thank you.
So congratulations to Flora Fraser. We'd like to invite you all now to make your way down to the Orientation Center for our dinner. So thank you very much.
You can see why this is my favorite event. It really is always so much fun. I almost hate to ask you to have to sit down and get started. But let us begin with the rest of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce the Honorable Togo West, former U.S. Secretary of Veterans Affairs and past chairman of the Mount Vernon Advisory Committee, who will give tonight's invocation. Togo, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Regent.
Sir?
Remaining seated, let us pray. Gracious and merciful God, thank you for this day, for this glorious evening event, and for those who have made it happen, especially the Gilder Lehrman Foundation for American History and Washington College. Thank you for the legacy, the life and example of George Washington, founding father, first president, first citizen of his nation, exemplar of American values. For the stewardship of the Mount Vernon Ladies Association and the hard work of their staff and their president, and for all who joyfully tender their time, their talent, and their treasures for the promulgation of this great work. For those who research, record, and report insightfully on the history of our country, especially those literary lights who have been the finalists and the winner of the George Washington Prize. On all these and this assemblage, we ask your blessing, your guidance, and your continuing inspiration. As Memorial Day nears, we pray humbly that you will keep within your protective embrace those who defend this nation in uniform and in other ways as well, serving as each of us would live in the tradition of General George Washington, bravely, with integrity, faithfully, and with an abiding faith in the greatness of this nation and the enduring nobility of all her people. Amen.
Thank you, Togo. That was beautiful. Earlier this evening, we recognized several special guests, including Sheila Bair, Jim Basker, and Lou Lehrman. I would now like to mention a few more notable folks who are with us this evening. You, of course, all are notable people, but I would just mention a few, starting with the three of the vice regents of the Mount Vernon Ladies Association who are here. And as I call your name through the course of this part of the program, please stand. So we begin with Ann Neal Petri, the Vice Regent for Wisconsin. Dee Dee? back there. Sarah Miller Colson, the Vice Regent for Pennsylvania, and I should add, the Regent-elect of our association. Gail Berry West, Gail West, Vice Regent for the District of Columbia and the wife of Secretary West. Our newest Vice Regent. Mary Holt, the chair of the Mount Vernon Advisory Committee, who's been so incredibly helpful to us in many, many ways. And 3 additional members of that committee, Alan Griffith from the Eastern Shore of Maryland, John Guy from Alexandria, and Rear Admiral Gary White from Boston. They're all here with us tonight. Thank you. Sheila Coates, the president of Black Women United for Action, and also a member of Virginia Governor's Board of Visitors for Mount Vernon. Apparently, if the Mount Vernon ladies let Mount Vernon fall into rack and ruin, the state of Virginia comes and takes it over, but it's not likely. Dr. Brent D. Glass, Director Emeritus of the National Museum of American History. Nice to see you. Thank you. Adam Goodhart, Washington College's Hodson Trust Griswold Director of the C.V. Starr Experience for the Center for the Study of the American Experience. Dr. James Grossman, Executive Director of the American Historical Association. Edwin Grosvenor, President of the American Heritage Society. The Honorable Thomas V. Mike Miller, Jr., President of the Maryland State Senate. Dr. Joe Carroll Porter, Chairman of the Mount Vernon's Lifeguard Society. Tireless worker. Dr. Peggy Plimpton, Deputy Chairman of the National Endowment for the Humanities. Nice to see you. The Honorable Sarah Bloom Raskin, Deputy Secretary of the United States Department of the Treasury. George Seegers, Executive Director of the George Washington Masonic National Memorial Association. Let's see him. And David Bruce Smith, Founder and President of the Grateful American Foundation. Thank you all for being here. We are really proud to have such a distinguished group of people with us tonight. As I mentioned, every one of you included in that. And we're happy to see you here. I hope that you'll come again, enjoy your meal, and we'll be back to you soon with the rest of the program. Thanks.
Hello. Hello again. Now that the winner has been announced, I'm so happy that we have the opportunity to honor Flora Fraser's book on the Washingtonians. On the Washingtons. Just a few days ago, Washington College held its 233rd commencement. I want you to know that Washington College is the oldest college chartered under the New Republic. So, you know, Harvard's older, but it was under the Brits, so it doesn't count. Anyway, anyway, I hope that our newly graduated, I hope that as our newly graduated seniors headed out into the real world, they'll find not only intellectual adventures, professional achievements, and opportunities for leadership and service, but also, like Georgia and Martha, rich and rewarding relationships with family and friends. Last Thursday evening, our graduating seniors gathered here at Mount Vernon to celebrate with a festive cruise up the Potomac. 4 years earlier, as freshmen, they'd also come here, that time to sign the college's honor code in an annual ceremony that we hold on the lawn. Those two Mount Vernon bookends to the Washington College experience show just how close to our hearts we still hold George Washington. Ever since our college's founding in 1782, our faculty and staff have taught undergraduates to emulate the values that he embodied: integrity, determination, curiosity, civility, leadership, and moral courage. Several of these teachers and learners are with us this evening. Would our faculty members, current students, and brand new graduates please stand so that we can recognize you for your achievements? Thank you for being here. Another of our proud connections to George Washington is his service as a founding trustee of our college. I'd also like to recognize his wise and dedicated present-day successors, the current and emeritus members of our Board of Visitors and Governors. Would you all please stand so that we can thank you for your leadership? Thank you, David. The George Washington Prize is, as you've heard, a working collaboration among three institutions that are truly joined by friendship, if not crowned by love. George Washington's Mount Vernon, the Gilder Lehrman Institute for American History, and Washington College. We salute Mount Vernon's Commanders-in-Chief, Kurt Vibrandt and Barbara Lucas, as well as their talented staff who've done so much to make this evening an elegant and memorable one. What an event. Please join me in thanking our hosts. We also tip our tricorn hats to the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History, its distinguished president, Jim Basker, and especially its founders, Richard Gilder and Louis Lehrman. Their generosity makes the Washington Prize possible, and our partnership has been a long and rewarding one. Please join me in applauding them as well. The C.V. Starr Center for the Study of the American Experience at Washington College administers the Washington Prize. Its staff collects dozens of the best books published each year on America's founding era for review by a jury of 3 eminent historians. This year's jury included Sean Willans, James Kirby Martin, and Libby O'Connell. Dr. O'Connell, who is here with us tonight, would you please be kind enough to stand so we can thank you for your work. I now invite everyone to join me in honoring 5 finalists for the 2016 George Washington Prize. Our 6th finalist, Robert Middlecoff, was not able to be here, but we do have a gift, a specially selected rare book on Washington and his times, and a framed citation to bestow on each nominee. Before welcoming them individually, I'm also going to share a short quote from the official jury report on each book. And as I discuss each author and their wonderful literary achievements, a member of the staff of Mount Vernon will deliver the award to their table. Our first finalist is Mary Sarah Gilder. Dr. Gilder is Founders Professor of Law at Washington College. Our jurors described her book, Madison's Hand, Revising the Constitution Convention, as a, quote, truly important piece of scholarship that is also lucid and compelling. They continued, thanks to her, historians, quite apart from judges and lawyers, will need to think through again one of the foundational documents in American constitutional and political history. I should add that others have agreed, since Dr. Gilder's book was recently awarded the Bancroft Prize in American History, one of the field's most prestigious honors. Congratulations, Dr. Gilder. If you could please stand and receive your award. Our next finalist is Kathleen Duvall. Dr. Duvall is a professor of history at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Assessing her book, Independence Lost, Lives on the Edge of the American Revolution, the jury reported, quote, the author writes in rich detail about ordinary lives of a diversity of peoples. Her book beautifully demonstrates how broadening the focus helps us better understand the American Revolutionary era, all that was at stake in struggles great and small. Congratulations to Kathleen Duvall for Independence Lost. Please stand. Congratulations. The next honoree is Janet Pulaski, Presidential Professor of History at the University of New Hampshire. Dr. Pulaski's book, Revolution Without Borders, The Call to Liberty in the Atlantic World, is, in the words of the jury, quote, a broad-ranging intellectual history focusing on the spread of liberty in the Western world, and, quote, a superb book that helps redefine what the revolution was all about. Congratulations to Dr. Pulaski. Continuing along, our next finalist is David Preston, Professor of History at the Citadel, for his book, Braddock's Defeat, The Battle of the Monongahela and the Road to Revolution. Our jury said, quote, much more than just another battle narrative, this is a masterwork of military history on a critical engagement in which Washington was heavily involved, a battle that profoundly affected the course of the remainder of the 18th century. And in fact, the Washington Prize jury's high opinion was confirmed recently when Dr. Preston's book won the prestigious Guggenheim Lehrman Prize in Military History. Congratulations, Dr. Preston. And last but certainly not least is finalist John Sedgwick. Mr. Sedgwick is an acclaimed journalist, novelist, memoirist, and biographer, the author of 12 books, and most recently, War of Two, Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr, and the Duel That Stunned the Nation. The Washington Prize jurors wrote, quote, as individuals and as combatants, Hamilton and Burr have attracted many talented historians. Hamilton particularly holds the spotlight this year in American popular culture. War of Two is all the more valuable, a thorough dual biography that goes well beyond the genre to provide fresh insight based on impressive scholarship. Congratulations, John Sedgwick. All 5 of these finalists, in addition to Flora Fraser, have kindly agreed to make themselves available after dinner to sign copies of their books. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to be loading up. So we hope you'll enjoy reading these outstanding works of American history. And again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight.
Good evening. Say again, my name is Kurt Vierantz. I'm the president of Mount Vernon. I want to add my welcome to all of you as we gather here on the 229th anniversary of the convening of the Constitutional Convention. So, this day in history now. And in a shameless plug for the general, he of course presided over that Constitutional Convention. We're here tonight to gather really to celebrate something elegant and not so simple. And it's all about works of high scholarship that are accessible to the American public. Because when Lewis Lehrman and the Gilder Lehrman Institute and Washington College and Mount Vernon brought this prize into existence, it was all about making the story of the founding era and Washington accessible to Americans and indeed people around the world. And so we're glad to have you here. In doing this, we honor the man, George Washington. We are also here tonight under the enduring and watchful eye of the Mount Vernon Ladies Association, including my boss, Barbara Lucas, the regent. It's a group of stalwart and visionary women that have preserved the legacy of George Washington. And so given this heritage and the subject of Flora Fraser's book, it's probably the right moment to remind everyone of the old saw, behind every great man, there is a great woman. So with that, I'd say is really the seminal message in Flora Fraser's book. Namely that we couldn't possibly predict the arc of Washington's life or the accomplishments that he might have had if he had not married Martha, but we do know that as a consequence of his marriage to Martha, he overcame his nervousness, his uncertainty, his sort of stiff visage, and that was that self-confidence that he gained at home and with his family that stood him in such great stead and underpinned his evolving demeanor on a national and indeed ultimately a world stage. In 1816, that negative nabob John Adams said, 17 years after Washington's death, would Washington ever have been commander of the Revolutionary Army or President of the United States if he had not married the rich widow Custis. So Ms. Fraser tells us that Washington's marriage to Martha actually completed him. The riches he gained through the union were far more than material. Indeed, through her love and support and the strength of their union, Washington rose to accomplish the mighty deeds for which we remember him. Writing history and historical biography is in Flora Fraser's DNA. She comes from a veritable dynasty of eminent authors. Ms. Fraser is the daughter of Lady Antonia Fraser, the granddaughter of Elizabeth Longford. In addition to her latest book that we honor tonight, Flora Fraser is the author of Beloved Emma, The Life of Emma Lady Hamilton, The Unruly Queen, The Life of Queen Caroline, Princesses, The Six Daughters of George III, and Pauline Bonaparte, Venus of Empire. She is chair of the Elizabeth Longford Prize for Historical Biography, established in 2003 in affectionate memory of her grandmother. She resides in London. We're delighted to have her here tonight. I would say that her book, The Washingtons, George and Martha Joined in Friendship, Crowned in Love, has been hailed as a major work on American history and an important contribution to understanding the joys, complexities, and intricacies of the union of our greatest founding father to the nation's First Lady. And so it's my great honor to introduce George Washington Prize recipient Flora Fraser.
Thank you, Kurt, Madam Regent, distinguished guests, fellow finalists. I'm still flabbergasted, though overjoyed, to have won this prestigious literary prize. And I'd like to thank all who, at Mount Vernon, at Washington College, and at the Gilder Lehrman Institute, for your confidence in me. I look forward hugely to visiting Washington College in the fall and discussing with students there the founding era, a subject now for some time dear to my heart. You may ask, what's a Brit doing writing about America's first couple? Well, perhaps only a Brit could have thought, as I did when visiting Mount Vernon for the first time some years ago. It's so English. The many American school children milling around me, in fact, nearly knocking me over, touring the home of George Washington, did give me pause for thought. But there was this justification for my initial reaction. When George and Martha Washington married in 1759, they were loyal colonial subjects. They equipped their home with wallpaper and furnishings from London. I wanted to know more about the journey they made from conservatism into radicalism, about their life together during the war, later as first presidential couple. I couldn't find a book that focused on their relationship, not a book that satisfied me. And so with some trepidation, Brit though I was, I resolved to write about that adventurous union of 40 years myself. The Washingtons, George and Martha, is a result. And I found the famous general to be a mix of heroic ambition and nervous sensibility. Martha, a redoubtable presence who instilled in him confidence. And maybe John Adams was right. Maybe he would never have become Commander-in-Chief and President, but maybe it wasn't the wealth of Mrs. Custis, but her remarkable and redoubtable character that helped him to those great ends. The sum, as you might say, of the couple was greater than the parts, and of infinite importance in the founding era. It's been a privilege to research and write about them. I would struggle to put into words quite how sincerely I appreciate the honor accorded my book tonight. All I can say is the pursuit of historical truth has been a pleasure for me all my life, as well as my chosen profession. Your recognition has made me truly proud, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to meet my fellow finalists, historians whose work I greatly admire. As you've heard, I grew up surrounded by history. My mother and grandmother, both historical biographers. As a teenager, I earned by the hour going to the British Library in London to check page numbers and bibliographical details. There was, of course, no useful internet in the 1970s. Good for me, as I wanted to earn. I also read my mother's Mary Queen of Scots and my grandmother's Wellington, which secured them a wide American readership. When Mary Queen of Scots came out in the 1960s and did well, my mother gave me a £1 note. My pocket money was 2 and 6, and said the magic words, "Keep the change." So I've always regarded historical biography as a potentially magic profession. Both my grandmother and grandmother hugely looked forward to American tours, to their American book tours when their books came out, and valued the questions and comments and letters of their American readers. So I was always aware that America, a country I did not know, was, if you like, a land of opportunity and adventure for British writers. In due course, I turned from researching for others to writing myself. The 18th century has always been my preferred period. I love the way people wrote then, the way the modern age of industrialization and revolution is dawning, and yet old customs persist. And I was fortunate enough to interest Robert Gottlieb, my mother and grandmother's editor and friend, at Knopf in New York. Bob has been my editor ever since I first published. I sent the Washingtons to him, chapter by chapter, for comment. "Keep going," he urged, and I did. This year we celebrate 35 years of an entirely happy professional partnership and friendship. Bob, here's to you, and to Sunny Mehta, best of publishers.